My name is Chris Palmer with ChrisPalmerMarketing.com, and in this video, before you start deploying click-through rate or CTR manipulation utilizing emulators. If you're utilizing emulators for click-through rate manipulation for maps or for your website, I really want to point out some information that you're going to need that you cannot change utilizing off-the-shelf emulators, like your NAS emulators or your BlueStacks emulators. They're not built with a developer in mind. What I can give you is some information and point you in the right direction that will not harm your maps listing or your website. Keep these things in mind when deploying your emulators. With that being said, all right, so here's some of the things that I really want you to point out, and then I'll share with you at the end. I'll point you in the right direction so you can set itineraries for free utilizing iPhone. A lot of the tools are built on top of Android Studio, which is completely free. Mind you, you have to pay for some time, and you can start deploying instances as long as you have the resource and the bandwidth. Point out a couple of things that you need to be very mindful of if you're deploying emulators. And if your emulator can't do this, make sure that you can do this. So some of the things that we need to make sure of is that, and might be obvious, is IMEI. Now, not all devices are going to have an IMEI. So what they might have instead is a GUID, all right? So what we need to make sure of is we want to make sure that we're able to change this information and this information. And this could be relatively simple and easy to do. Even with these easy to use, non-developer focused type emulators, you can generally change out this type of information. It's very, very simple. You might want to write some of this stuff down if you're utilizing, or thinking about utilizing any type of emulator, not a simulator. There is a difference in order to drive traffic either to a web asset or to a maps listing. Now, we already know that we want to utilize mobile proxy. If you're using mobile proxy, I was using RSSox for a very long time. I knew the gentleman that was running this site a very long time ago. However, when he went out of business, we decided to deploy our own services, all right, for ourselves, for our own projects, along with others. And we fixed the email issue at Proxy. That's mobile proxies, truly unlimited for a very, very fair price. But I'm not here to share with you mobile proxies. IMEI and GUID, you have to be able to change this. Okay, let's move on to some of the next information. Now, some of the things that you need to make sure of is you need to be able to change the SIM card information. Along with the SIM card information, we want to make sure that we, and again, IMEI and GUID. SIM card information needs to be able to be changed. We want to add phone capabilities because we need to appear as though we're utilizing an actual device is enabled. Please make sure of this. I'll go ahead and zoom in for you. IMEI, GUID, SIM card, and messaging. We want to make sure that we're able to update these types of things, all right? Inside of the emulators, we also want to upload, what we do is inside of your actual devices, all right, real devices, whether it's Android or iPhone. We'll talk about iPhone moving forward here. But what you need to do is you need to be able to get the information, all right? You can utilize, there's lots of tools out there. Lots of hex tools. There's lots of binary tools that you can utilize in order to get the information that's from your phone, past history. Okay, lots of history, whether that was crashed apps, communicating with apps, uploading, importing, deleting, all of that junk information. We want to make sure that we have history on the device. Okay, very, very important. Okay, some of the other things that we want to make sure of, along with messaging, we want to make sure that we have our contacts. Real phones have contacts, messages, contacts and messages, all right? It's going to be in your very best interest to make sure that you have an account attached. Make sure that you get an account attached. Each search influences the next. Search results are based upon user profile. When you're initiating searches, all right, you need to start building user profiles that make sense for you. For instance, hypothetically, let's say that Sally is a 36-year-old woman. Sally likes to shop for dresses. Sally also visits boot stores. Along with that, Sally lives in Florida. She's between the age bracket of this, and she also has an annual income of this and this. Build your profile. Build the profiles that make sense, that need to be that should be visiting the accounts that you're on. Yes, it's not going to be cheap to allocate these types of resources, but when we're talking about local markets, it's very low volume. Create the accounts and attach, right? Not a lot of assets will have this. SD card debugging, SD card capabilities and debugging. You want to make sure that these functionalities are added. You need to make the emulator appear authentic. With these off the shelves that are being recommended, you know who you are recommending these things. It's not going to be, I assure you, you're not going to get the result you're looking for. All right. So we talked about IMEIs, GUIDs. We talked about SIM cards, account creation, account attaching. We also talked about messaging and contacts, get them updated, and then also attach a phone number to the emulator. All right. You also want to make sure that there's apps. Real phones have apps and app data. Don't just upload one APK, call it a day. There's only one APK. The only APK that you have on there is for what, an itinerary? Does that seem like a good idea? It's up to you. I'd like to discuss some of the other things that you need to be very, very cautious of when we're talking about your emulators. Now, inside of emulators and inside of browsers, you need to make sure of a few things. All right. You need to make sure that level. All right. Not all should be the same. Okay, if you don't know what these terms are, look them up. All right. I'm giving you the information that you're going to need to spoof in order to get the result that you're looking. I completely understand that the emulators don't have Bluetooth capability, but you can create and disable the port, right? So it's there, but it doesn't work. All right, I'll try to write a little bit smaller so we can get the rest of this information to you. Browsers matter, and browser, there's another thing called web. I think it's called TRC or RTC. I'm not sure of the abbreviation, but WebGL. These are very small. These are easy things, but we need to make sure that you have the complete list so that way you're able to bypass detection. Not use IPv4 data center on an emulator. Do not use residential on an emulator. Definitely don't use rotating because they're back connected residential proxy. Back connected meaning that it's connected to a main server. Call for information. Google's like, I know they're not supposed to, but Google's like, oh, we see all this traffic routing through here. Wrong. Don't do that, my friends. If you don't know what this is, I know this is a blanket term, but it's called finger. Look this up. Make sure that this is in line and unique and attached to a profile. A proxy, fingerprint, the browser, the profile, phone number, the emulator. It's all unique and attached, okay? Or Bobby, whoever you want. One account, one user profile, one proxy, one phone, one SIM, one IMEI, one, okay? Like, and two, I want you to think about this because you might even get results right? Like you might get something at first, but once this, all right, you can call it whatever you want, but we'll use this as a blanket term. You know, once you start sending in 10 to 50 searches or clicks or actions in a day, by the time you get to 7 days, you're caught. It's over. And that's why you'll see that initial rush at first. You'll see that initial bump at first. It's very, very short-lived. Very short-lived. Screen and screen size matters. Does it match? Does it match the proxy? We ran into this issue. Does the time and the device type match the time? You're not using information that's from China or something, are you? Does the proxy match the device? This all matters. Screen size, proxy time and device. Does it all match? When you go and you get your NOS emulator, very blanket. We don't have the ability to change the details that we need and attach unique to each profile. One blanket emulator. That's the issue here, friends. All right. I'm giving you all of the information that you need. You might have to look up each of these things and understand how they work, just like I had to, but at least you'll have it. Well, you know about IP address. Make sure it's not leaking. You can check out browser leaks for that. Well, you don't need to worry about that. Oh, the OP. I wrote little notes right here. All right. The OP, the RAM inside of your system. the mic, this doesn't come on. Like, you have to go and set each of these things, okay? This is what the objective here is to make the emulator appear. Once you have the settings, it's very easy to duplicate. You're gonna have to go and look for device. It's not the ad setting. The ad settings, see, when they made a change. When the ad settings changed, now it always comes back like, and each of your regular emulators, if you go and you check for information, it's going to come like this. Oh, this is another one. The serial number. Make sure you're changing that. Change the serial number per device. Because again, when you have an emulator, and then if you're using older models, it's going to have something called an ad ID or a Google. I gave you the base information. What I'm giving you is how to make your emulator appear authentic, to make it look real. How to, there's canvassing, all right, but you don't need to worry about that. Does it correspond to the proxy that's being utilized and also the information that device is giving and the time? Does it all make sense? This is the new piece of information. Make your list. Keys, as in you have a phone, not an emulator. Each of these keys have a number association that can be found and edited utilizing. The information that's created from an actual device matters. This is what I mean by all right, so you need to look that up and how to figure that out. So how do I input information utilizing a phone? When I scroll, what is that code that's being produced? So when I'm scrolling and looking and clicking, what actual information is being fed? Because it's different when you're running an emulator. Just saying, all right? Actual geo is the new piece of information. Turn the trackers on, attach it to the profile. You can go in there and try to block every little thing and try to hide, but I assure you, there's all types of secondary backdoors through apps and accounts and fonts and G-static. There's all kinds of stuff. Turn it on. Do yourself a favor. Say, hey, here I am. I'm a normal person, because normal people aren't going in there and turning everything off. Okay? I'm giving you the list. I'm giving you a list of things that you should be checking. What else? Oh, upload test cookies. And that ought to do it. Last thing I want to give you. Here's the last piece. All right, everything we talked about is with Android. Like, I assure you, if you take a phone and install an app on it, or itinerary, and also an app or browser, and you don't get the other information correct, the Android emulator will only be, if you're using the off-the-shelf stuff, instead of even going after the Android, unless you are massively changing things, the probability of it working long-term effectively, 0. I assure you. Since I came out with a training in the beginning of 2019 how to set up the Android emulators for CTR manipulation. That was after I figured out the cloud CTR manipulation, right? And once we hit that, it was over. Then we figured it out. What I want to tell you is, please don't take off the shelf. Get the Android emulators, figure out each of those elements, figure out how to make the emulator appear as real as possible, or there's real device. I know you probably already know about this, but there's lots of systems out there that you can go out and rent stuff for 60 cents an hour. 60 cents an hour. There's testing groups out there that have 700 devices. Those 700 devices, you can do whatever you want. They have the history. They're real devices. Yes, you're going to pay 60 cents an hour. It's expensive. But now you have a pool of 700 devices with real history. And a lot of times, these aren't people that are doing stuff like we're doing. You're allowed to put your proxies in. You're allowed to upload whatever you want. You can pretty much do whatever you want on these devices for 60 cents an hour. And a lot of them will give you $100 or $200 to start, or you can go and see the results yourself. Real device. Then you start putting your APKs or your applications inside and build your profiles there. Build your Google account. Go out there and find, but don't go to Amazon or Samsung or these big ones. Go and find a smaller, lesser known. It might not be a big one with 700. They might have 50. They might have 100. This is where you curate your accounts and your profiles. This is where you get the information and you export the information. Platforms make it so easy to create all the information, get the data, and then move it over to the emulator. I assure you. There's one that starts with a K that we were utilizing, but I can't remember the name of it off the top of my head. I think it's like Copalin or something like this. You could try Sauce Labs. There's tons of places out. Now, here's the last thing that I want to share with you for my iPhone users. See, iPhone has a special place in my heart. Relatively difficult to utilize. If you don't want to pay the money and you don't want to hurt your profile, you need need is something called Xcode. This isn't anything fancy. What I'm doing is, for those that don't know, I'm pointing you in the right direction. Please do not use the NOS. Please don't use BlueStack. Don't use any customer grade stuff that's not set up custom. Take it off the shelf, plug in your apps, and think it's gonna work. I assure you, you already tried it. Dude, it worked, I would tell you. But here's what's cool about Xcode. See, with Xcode for Mac users and for iPhones, cool about this is you can actually create and upload your own itineraries. Then you can have it drive. So if you're interested in doing driving directions, even though I feel as though that impressions are much more powerful. Think about a real business that you've worked on. A real business that's booming. They're in the 3-pot pack. They're in a big city. How many directions do they get? They might get 50 calls. On their posts, they might get 500 views, 1 call, right? This kind of stuff, right? You guys with me? Maybe along with that, they probably get, we're talking about real stuff, not inflated, 50 to 200 clicks to the website. But how many directional requests does a real business get? Maybe 4. What I would recommend is doing impression, viewing it, but not deploying it. It's just not authentic. I would be very cautious with this. Don't abuse it is what I'm getting at. With Xcode, you can upload an itinerary utilizing Xcode. This is for my iPhone friend, because iPhone has a lot of special features and they block a lot of things that I really don't want to get into, but I do want to share this with you. Xcode itinerary, it's for iPhones, okay? And you can upload, I believe it's a KML file. Once you have that KML file, then you can set your, I really hope that this is helpful. Again, just for a quick list, IMEI or GUID. You want to take care of your message, upload history, IP mobile. Okay. Here, I've tested this significantly. I shouldn't share this in PA. So with that being said, that's going to wrap it up for today. Hope I've given you enough to work with. I hope that this helps you out. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you so much for your time. Many blessings, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you.